May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our God, our strength and our redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
Today, we start off with that great celebration as Jesus rides into Jerusalem. It's a spur of the moment, caught up in the excitement of the day kind of event. And like so many of those kinds of things, the euphoria, the excitement, and all the joy dissipates quite quickly. And over the next several days, leading up to Good Friday, we will see some of the little actions and little encounters that contribute to that joy being dissipated. And then we're invited to sit and to wait. Now, the Easter story is the great story. It's the great celebration. And we have a tendency to want to skip right ahead to it. Because we want to get there and belt out Jesus Christ is risen today. We want to hear the bells ring as we celebrate. But we tell this story every year, and it has such centrality that we actually spend a whole week leading up to it. And during that week, we're invited to sit with the grief of the resurrection. We are invited to sit with our own brokenness. Which brought about Good Friday. And it's important for us to do that. Memory is an important part of our tradition. Every time we come to this table, we are reminded of, do this in memory of me. Do this in my remembrance. And remembrance is an important idea because it's not just about recalling. It's not just like, oh, I brought this fact back into my memory. Remembrance, to remember, is to put together again, to make whole that which was broken. That's what we do every time we come to this table. And that's why this week is so important. There are actually times when it's good for us to sit, not only realize that we're broken, but how and why we were broken. To reflect on those things that come out of ourselves that cause us to crack and to break. but also those things that are imposed on us that cause us to crack and break. And also, and maybe the hardest of the three, is to reflect on the way we impose our wills on others and cause them to crack and to break. This is not designed to make us feel terribly guilty. Because the fact of the matter is, all of us do things in our own lives to ourselves that cause us to crack and break. And to one extent or another, all of us do things in the way we interact with other people that brings cracking and breaking into their lives. So it's not meant to be a contest. Anything you can break, I can shatter. It's just to look and to realize that we are broken. And to look and realize that we sometimes contribute to the breaking of others as well. And while it's not a cause, should not be a cause for feeling guilty, we should, at some point, take time to grieve. Because when this happens to us, when we're broken, when we cause others to break, we lose. We lose the beauty of potential friendships and relationships that could be built in love. We lose little bits of ourselves. But we also look around and we see each other grieve. And as we take this time in this next week to reflect, it allows us to actually also sit with each other in our grief. It allows us to be there. Remember that last week, when Jesus came to Lazarus' tomb, the first thing he did was he interacted with Martha and with Mary, and as he saw their grief, he grieved too. He knew what was coming, but he took the time to sit in grief, to comfort and to console by entering into that grief. Not simply by erasing it, but entering into that grief. And that's what Passion Week is about. We sometimes forget that the root of passion is suffering. So when we look across the street and see those banners that say, fueled by passion, they've missed the point a little bit about what passion is about. It's not just about being excited about something. Passion is about suffering. And in this week, in Passion Week, we suffer together as a community. gospel reading towards the end. The women gathered at the cross, holding each other up, sustaining each other, suffering together over this great loss. We need to be together at this time. We'll start Thursday evening with the Great Triduum, with Maundy Thursday, that new commandment to love one another as Christ has loved us, which, by the way, was love that went to the cross. So it's not just happy feelings towards each other. And then we come together again on Good Friday. And we hear again the story that we heard this morning. We tell it twice in this week. We come together and we stay there. And the noteworthy thing about both of those days, there's no dismissal at the end of the liturgy. We are still living that liturgy. We're still living the story of the cross as we leave the building. On Thursday, on Friday, we live with it on Saturday as we get ready for the vigil. Which is the point that there is an end to that story. There is an end to that suffering. There is an end to that grieving, and that's called Easter morning. And it will come. But we don't need to rush towards it. Instead, during this week, in prayer, as we gather for worship, as we gather around the table, it's our chance to sit together in the solidarity of grief, to allow ourselves to be put back together as we grieve together. This is, it's called Ash Week because it is a week that does focus on suffering. But it's also called Holy Week because it is a week that is set apart and is different from all the other weeks. We are asked to say, as Jesus said to the disciples, could you not pray for 1 hour? We're asked as a community, can you not take a few days to grieve together? A few days to acknowledge not only our brokenness as individuals, but our brokenness as a community. Sometimes that means just being able to sit in silence together. And this week in particular, there's much more silence built into the liturgies. So we realize today the joy and the excitement of Palm Sunday. And Jesus riding into Jerusalem with the loud hosannas of the crowd. But we also know that Friday is coming. And during that week, the crowd will change. And as we go through that week, as we take the time to sit, to grieve together, we'll also be changed. In a way that when next Sunday comes, we can more joyfully, more fully, more lovingly embrace the Easter day and embrace the people that we are, the followers of Christ, who have been called into community, who have been called into being an Easter community. But we will be a better Easter community if we take the time to be a better Passion